Morning, good afternoon, good evening. President Trump is back and is back with a bang. He has already signed an executive order withdrawing America from the World Health Organization. One of the reasons is that he has given is that the World Health Organization failed to act promptly and to criticize China for the COVID-19. Ben, welcome.
Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. If I may start by saying he has signed over, 100 executive orders. Lord knows what some of them are, and controversial. You know, we know Donald Trump. He is, and I think this is one of those controversies where he has decided to not consult, the Americans themselves. Instead, he decided to use his power and remove them totally out of the World Health Organization. You know, it's at the end of the day, I would say, the Americans chose, and this is the character that they chose, and they stand to be guided by him. So even if he decides to take away their voice on such an important, matter, like removing themselves, you know, removing America out of the health organization, that's something that is huge, very, very huge.
Well, it is huge. But I think most of his actions, in my view, will be to the benefit of America in the sense that America will probably not feel the ill effects of such a move, as, for instance, America leaving the World Health Organization. But I think the UN and the world at large will feel the difference. In this particular case, America was one of the uh, biggest donors to the World Health Organization. And it will mean with a reduced budget, will mean they've got to cut back on some of their activities. And the repercussions of that is that particularly third world countries that have relied on the World Health Organization to step in again and again when there's a crisis, they will not be able to do so. And so I think the weaker countries will feel the ill effects of that. America itself, I don't think, will suffer as a result of that. Or, well, okay, maybe the benefit of the system working for the good of the world, America benefits from that too. But nonetheless, I think America can probably cope on its own.
Yes, I agree. Obviously, you look at America, you would probably look at how sound and how well run their healthcare is. They have basically a solid healthcare system, basically. So that wouldn't really, hurt them. But I mean, you also need PR, to be found doing good, and reap the benefits of that. Basically, America is the big brother of the world, and as a big brother, there are certain things that the little guys, the third world countries, look up to them, right? And this is one of those things. Now, to take that away, that would mean that most third world countries would feel the pinch, or would feel the blow, if I may say, because I'll give, for example, Zimbabwe. They really rely on these handouts that come from the health organization through donors. So definitely we are going to be in trouble, as now we'll have to, procure some of the drugs and the aid that we were getting.
Well, the other big point here is the America's interaction with the rest of the world. Here is a video of what South Africa is saying regarding
when is South Africa going to do the same? What our position now? I will not be able to say today exactly when are we going to take a firm decision on this matter, because I'll tell you why. The South African economy is largely embedded on the dollar, very much so. So we have to be careful when we discuss this question. How do we deal with it? If you look at the trade between South Africa and the West, the US, Europe, etc., those are the countries that we have very big trade with on a daily basis, and we pay by the dollar. So it's something that we will discuss. In fact, I mentioned.
Sorry about that. I think we've got some problem with the video. But the most important thing there that the gentleman was trying to explain.
But we will need to be careful as the leadership of the country how we make.
Sorry about that. What the gentleman is trying to explain there is that South Africa, as much as they are on the part of the BRICS, and they were at one point seriously thinking of getting away from the use of the American dollar. They are now saying that they may have to seriously reconsider that. And this is another side of it. With Trump, you would not hesitate to apply the pressure. One is not clear what kind of pressure the BRIC nations are being put under, but that is another thing. So that is another dimension that we should not forget here.
What I have to say is, you have to think before you act. And unfortunately for Trump, that is not the case. He acts, then he thinks later. I mean, this BRIC of nations it's a growing lot. you have to take into consideration that the numbers are increasing. And what you don't want to be doing now is making controversial decisions. I give you an example of tariffs and taxes. You don't want to now, lessen your trade with 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 other countries, lest that opportunity is taken away by your competitor. It comes at a time where, I think as America, as a nation, they do not need some of these controversial decisions that will shift players to the opposition. I'll give you an example. America, United States of America, is bordered by Canada and Mexico. And you are planning to tariff your neighbors. One, you have agreements with them, trade agreements with them. You know, you are pushing those aside, and straight away you want to, to squash them so that they feel the pain. I mean, you're bound to lose friends. So I think America right now, as BRICS, is showing that it's a growing thing. What you would have wanted was to try and consolidate and maintain or expand your friendship, rather than start fining them and taxing them and tariffing them. For me, it doesn't really work. From a business point of view, it really doesn't work.
Well, one of the things that I've said here with Trump is that here is an individual who will not hesitate to flex his muscle, political and economic muscle, if it benefits himself or America. The problem with that is if everybody will be tempted to do the same thing, then it will mean that the weak will be on the receiving end. And that is what is worrying here. But to end on a positive note, this is one of the things that has happened, and maybe in some respect should be forcing those of us in the third world to sit up and really seriously sort out our problems. One of the problems we have had in Zimbabwe, for instance, is that America and most of the Western countries have imposed sanctions on the ZANU-PF regime for failing to hold free, fair, and credible elections and serious human rights abuses. The sanctions were imposed in 2001. And up to now, ZANU-PF has not changed. The question then is, and this is one of the reasons why many of the European countries, for instance, have all but lifted those sanctions against Zimbabwe. The European Union particularly lifted the sanctions against Zimbabwe for them to be able to participate in the looting of Zimbabwe's diamonds, because they realized that they were losing out. Other countries, notably China and India and Russia, were benefiting from it. The big question that we as a people have got to ask ourselves is, why is it that since 2001 we have failed to bring about any meaningful political change in the country. Forcing these countries to think that we are a lost cause. Of course, we are not a lost cause. We had a chance to force ZANU-PF to implement democratic reforms, but did nothing. And now with people like Trump in power, and I can tell you, if the Americans were to lift the sanctions against Zimbabwe, the rest of the Western countries will do the same. And we will be in serious, serious trouble. Food for thought. Ben, do you want to give your closing remark?
In closing, I would want to say, I think it's also a good move, like you said, time for handouts is over. I believe, third world countries by now should have, almost caught up with the First Nations. We have dragged our feet because we over relied on handouts. I'll give you an example, like Zimbabwe. If we can afford to continuously buy motor cars for our friends, sometimes we are now buying 3-4 cars per person and so forth. Why can't we have a decent healthcare system? Why do we have to wait to say, some other country is going to pay for us using their own, their own funds that they could have been catering for their own people? You see, it really doesn't make sense. And I think, it's also something that was needed so that, it's a wake-up call to all developing countries that it is now time for you to stand up on your own 2 feet. The time for handouts is far from, far gone. This is now a step to show that, if you will not wake up to this call, you will be left and you will be destitute with your own people. Take care of your people. Take care of your citizens. Thank you.
Well, my closing remark would be that President Trump has just been sworn in, and already he is definitely making a difference to the world. We have got ZANU-PF that has been in power for 45 years now and counting. And Mnangagwa is seeking to extend ZANU-PF's rule by a further 2 years on the pretext that he's got something he's got to finish in 2028. ZANU-PF would have been in power for a total period of 48 years. I think, to be quite honest, the people of Zimbabwe have to accept that they are being conned here. To believe that ZANU-PF or Mnangagwa is changing their lives, when in reality, nothing is changing at all. If ZANU-PF or Mnangagwa is causing the economy to revive, as he promises 2030 the country would be an upper middle income nation, why is it that there are no signs of such recovery on the ground? You do not expect a bumper harvest when halfway through the season, the growing season, you can see there's still nothing in the field. And somehow you still expect a bumper harvest. If the economy was being revived, why is it that we do not see any evidence of it? And in any case, ZANU-PF is promising to fix the problem that it created. In 1980, Zimbabwe was an upper middle income nation. Now we are one of the poorest. And Mnangagwa is promising that he'll take us back where we were in 1980. Why did he let the country slip from where we were in 1980? We should have been building on what we had. This is the contrast between a democratically elected government that is accountable to the people. ZANU-PF is not accountable to the people. ZANU-PF has never been accountable to the people. And this is why Zimbabwe is a failed state. Think about it. Thank you very much for those of you who were able to join us. Hope we'll be able to join us again tomorrow. 6 o'clock UK time, 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time. Have a good evening.